All right, everybody, how are we doing this evening on July 5th, 2022? I'm your host, Andy Mercado, Mercado Media. Welcome, everybody, to Tuesday night here. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Let me know how your guys' day went. Let me know if you guys need any support in the chat or anything. We have an amazing community here at Mercado Media, and I'm so blessed to have you guys tuning in with us on a nightly basis. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. Spam those reactions on Facebook. Hit the like on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Notification bell turned on. Same with Facebook. Make sure you have your notification bell turned on Facebook as well. So I do a mini world news update before we get into the war in Ukraine, and I've been covering the war in Ukraine since day one, since the invasion has began, and we've stayed with it, covering the latest news within the last 24 hours every single night, or at least the best I can. If I have to take a night off here and there, I will, but it's been consistent since the invasion has began. So before we get into the ins and outs of Ukraine, and what we do that is I'm going to go into a full map breakdown of territory gains, territory losses, Russian advance, Ukrainian counterattacks. We're going to go into all of that on the map. I'm going to draw on the map. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit, show you guys the key cities in Ukraine that most of the activity is taking place, and we'll do that. I'll show arrows, try to keep it as simple and break it down Barney style to you guys as best as I can, all right? And then after that, we're going to go into the video clip section afterwards, and we're going to go through the last combat footage that has come out in the last 24 hours, or any new news reports or updates that we can watch visually. Okay, and that's after the map update. The streams are usually about 2 hours long. If I need to go a little over 2 hours, I will. I don't keep myself at 2 hours, but that's roughly the time frame for these live streams. And then afterwards, if you caught this live stream late, or you just missed the map breakdown at 2 o'clock every day after the fact, so tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we will have an edited map video, an edited map breakdown video for you guys to be able to watch and tune into. It's about a 20 to 25 minute video, a shorter version of this live stream, just showing the map changes, all right? And you can watch yesterday's is already posted today from live stream, so the live stream will always provide the newest information, and then the map breakdown is just a summary of the map breakdown that I do within the stream. Okay, so let's get into it here. Mini world news update for July 5th, 2022. A multi-millionaire Russian businessman, let me clear this really quick. I added on to this before I went live. There we go. A multi-millionaire Russian businessman has been dead at his mansion. The latest elite with links to energy giant Gazprom to die in recent months. Yuri Voronov, 61, head of the logistics company that had lucrative contracts with Gazprom in the Arctic, was found dead at his home in an ultra-wealthy suburb of St Petersburg at 2 p.m. on Monday. Court record now shows Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has filed petitions to the court for testimony from Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Cleta Mitchell, Jackie Deason, and Jenna Ellis, all Trump legal team, and U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. A Mississippi judge has cleared the way for a law banning most abortions in the state to take effect on Thursday. Judge Debbra K. Halford rejected a request by the state's abortion clinic to temporarily block the state law. So looking for Mississippi to block the state law temporarily. Highland Park shooter Robert Crimo III has been charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder. Officials state these charges are just the first to come. Dozens more to follow. If convicted, Crimo will face mandatory life in prison without parole. Illinois law enforcement interacted with Highland Park shooting suspect Robert E. Crimo twice before a mass shooting at the 4th of July parade on Monday, police said. Deputy Chief Christopher Cavelli, a spokesperson for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, said in April 2019 someone contacted the Highland Park Police Department a week after hearing that Crimo had attempted to die by suicide. He said the second interaction happened in September 2019 when a family member reported that Crimo had a collection of knives, and he said, quote, he was going to kill everyone. The police responded to his residence. The police removed 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from Crimo's home. 7th victim succumbed to injuries following the mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. 6 of the 7 victims have now been identified. And that is the latest going on in the world. And yesterday we had a stream, had some breaking news going on while I was live, and some of the shootings going on and during the July 4th festivities taking place within the United States. I hope you guys all had a safe Independence Day weekend and a safe 4th of July weekend as you're returning back to work this week. Go ahead and comment where you're tuning in from, what city, what state, where in the world you guys are watching from. Let's do a viewer check-in in the chat, and I'm going to go into a map breakdown now and go into the very latest within the territory changes in Ukraine. So, with that being said, I am your host, Andy Mercado, independent journalist, U.S. Army veteran. Welcome, everyone, to another night covering the war in Ukraine here on July 5th, 2022, day 132 of the war within Ukraine. Let's just take a look at the map. Let's take a look at the changes here. And first, I'm going to do a map terrain features, a map key features update for you guys so you guys know exactly what you're looking at here. So really quick, the main fronts of the war taking place on July 5th, 2022. I'm just going to highlight. There's going to be in the southern axes, right? At the southern axes in Ukraine, there's like three main fronts going on. The southern axes, then you got the Donbas, a little bit more. Three main fronts, the Donbas, and then you got the northeast in the Kharkiv Oblast. These are the main fronts going on still in Ukraine as of July 5th, 2022, and ongoing ground battles. That doesn't mean that there still isn't cities around Ukraine that are subject to artillery shellings or bombardments from the Russian military. There still is the Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, which is here, was just hit by cruise missiles, Kh-22 caliber cruise missiles last week. So just because they're not on the front lines here in these three main fronts, which would be the southern axes, the Kharkiv Oblast, and the Donbas, that doesn't mean that these cities like Lviv here's Odessa, and Kyiv to the west, these cities are still subject to rocket artillery fire and strikes on residential infrastructure. Other things to know, the red on the map is assessed Russian advance within the country. So that would be in the Crimean Peninsula post-2014, because the Crimean Peninsula has been annexed. This is Crimea here to the south, okay, Crimea. Then you got the Donbas, you got Donetsk, the main two being Donetsk and Luhansk, who have been run by separatist forces since 2014. That's Donetsk and Luhansk. They're not annexed yet, right? You got Crimea, the Crimean Peninsula, which is annexed, but Donetsk and Luhansk is not annexed at this time. They're working to annex those oblasts as we speak. All right, they're trying to finish the encirclement and the capture of all of the Luhansk oblasts, and then they'll start working on Donetsk and start working to Russify and integrate those cities into the Russian Federation. Okay, just like they did in Crimea. And they're attempting to do that in a few other cities in the southern axes, in Berdyansk and Mariupol, and Mariupol, Tokmak, and Kherson. They're attempting to do what they did in Crimea and the Donbas in these specific cities in the south, except for, and we'll talk about it on the southern axes, the occupation in Kherson is put on the defense at this time due to the Ukrainian counteroffensives that are getting very close to the city. So the Russification process has had to stop here in Kherson while the Ukrainians are advancing and they're getting close in the south. That is the one region right now where Ukraine is gaining ground back, or they're gaining territory back. In the east, they're losing ground. In the northeast, it's been a stalemate. So it's in the last week or so, a week or two in general, for the three fronts, for Russia, let's just go with Russia, the Russian perspective. In the Donbas, in this front, it'd be W's just in general. This is before we even get into today's report. For the last week or so, it'd be W's in the east for Russia. It'd be L's down here for Russia, right? Going on the defense now. I had to pause their Russification attempts here in the southern axes, and then up here in Kharkiv, it's more of like a draw right now. There's big attrition going on here, and you could say that for the majority of the conflict going on in most of the regions. The most territory gains and changes on a daily basis is going to be right in here in the east. All right, highlighting in this region, and we'll talk about that and go into that a little bit more in depth. But the majority of the ground changes and the territory gains and losses are in the east, in the Donbas. All right, let's get into it here. Handy dandy map. So here, July 5th, 2022. Russia's stated objectives in its invasion of Ukraine remain regime change in Kyiv and the truncation of the sovereignty of any Ukrainian state that survives the Russian attack despite Russian military setbacks and rhetoric hinting at a reduction in war aims following those defeats. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev stated on July 5th that the Russian military operation in Ukraine will continue until Russia achieves its goals of protecting civilians from genocide, denazifying and demilitarizing Ukraine, and obliging Ukraine to be permanently neutral between Russia and NATO. Almost exactly restating the goals of Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in his February 24th speech, justifying the war. Putin had stated that the operation aimed to protect civilians from humiliation and genocide, demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, and prosecute genocidal perpetrators. Perpetrators. Words are tough today for me. Let me read that one more time. Putin had stated that the operation aimed to protect civilians from humiliation and genocide, demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, and prosecute genocidal perpetrators. Patrushev's explicit reinstatement of Putin's initial objectives nearly 5 months later strongly indicates that the Kremlin does not consider recent Russian gains in the Luhansk Oblast sufficient to accomplish the initial goals of the, quote, special operation. Supporting the study of war's ongoing assessment that the Kremlin has significant territorial aspirations beyond the Donbas. Pastruchev's statement suggests that the Russian military leadership will continue to push for advances outside of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, and that the Kremlin is preparing for a protracted war with the intention of taking much larger portions of Ukraine. How many people think that Russia? I don't think Russia has the capabilities or the manpower to even go beyond the east. They're barely holding on to the territories outside of Donbas right now, in the southern axes and in the northeast. They're holding on to those two areas with a string, and that's only because the Ukrainians don't have enough heavy equipment or heavy artillery to pause or to further advance the Ukrainian counteroffensives, and they can't pause the Russian advance in the east. I don't know if they're going to have I don't know if Russia has the equipment, the resources, or the morale, unless they're forced. They start Russifying these cities and start conscripting Ukrainian civilians into the separatist units. That would provide them more manpower, but the morale to go further into Ukraine, I feel like they put all their eggs in the east basket now, and I feel that after they secure all of Donbas, the invasion aspect or trying to gain more ground from the Russian military will slowly dissipate into just accepting that the Donbas was their goal the entire time. Well, that's what they'll say. That's how I feel. I feel they'll stop at Donbas. They'll get as much as they can in the south. The Ukrainians will take back Kherson and continue to advance. The counteroffensives will continue to advance in the south as best they can. But it's getting to a point now where if the Ukrainians aren't going to receive more heavy equipment, more than just like 12 pieces of equipment, or in the teens where countries are like, yeah, here's 12 artillery systems, literally 12. Or just a small amount of artillery pieces that we're sending, or the NATO countries are sending to Ukraine. If that doesn't increase, the Ukrainians are going to have a hard time taking back a lot of this territory. But I feel that the Russians won't enter a point of where they're not going to or where they're not going to advance any further into the country or attempt to take more ground after they capture Donetsk and the Luhansk oblasts. I feel they'll be, at least for a period of time, they'll be satisfied with that within Ukraine, and however that long will last. Again, this war has been going since 2014. It's not like this war just began in 2022. The invasion increased, and they went after the capital of Ukraine and tried to take the entire country, and that failed. But that doesn't mean that even though they stop here in the east for however long, if they capture the Donetsk Oblast and the rest of the Luhansk Oblast, that doesn't mean that their goals will just stop forever. Well, who knows? We'll have to wait and see then. Pastruchev's statement is noteworthy because of its timing and his position as a close confidant of Putin. Pastruchev is very unlikely to stray far from Putin's position in his public comments given his relationship with Putin and his role in the Kremlin. His reinstatement is virtually the same maximalist objectives that Putin laid out before the invasion, even as Russian forces seem to be closing in on the more limited objectives of securing Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, which Putin and other Russian leaders had hinted were their new aims following the defeats around Kyiv, strongly suggests that those hints did not reflect any actual change in the Kremlin policy. Pastruchev's statement significantly increases the burden on those who suggest that some compromised ceasefire or even peace based on limited additional Russian territorial gains is possible, even if it were acceptable to Ukraine or desirable for the West, neither of which is the case here for that. Igor Girkin, a Russian nationalist and former commander of militants in the 2014 war in the Donbas, responded to Pastruchev's statements and continued expressing his general disillusionment with the Kremlin's official line on operations in Ukraine. Girkin said that the intended goals of denazification and demilitarization will only be possible with the total defeat of the Ukrainian military and the surrender of the Ukrainian government. Girkin noted that Russian victory is premised in the capture of Novosibirsk, a notional territory that encompasses 8 Ukrainian oblasts, including the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts as much as the eastern and southern Ukraine. Girkin also claimed that the capture of Novosibirsk is a bare minimum and that Russian goals will be realized through the total capture of Belarusian, which is the invocation of the Russian imperial concept for almost all of the Ukrainian territory. Girkin is once again pushing back on the Kremlin line, which he views as insufficient in securing Russian objectives in Ukraine. This Igor Girkin guy is just outspoken. He's very supportive of what the Kremlin's goals are in general. He's an extremist for sure. He's a far right nationalist extremist. But he's a pro-Russian mill blogger, but he's saying that the Russian military isn't being extreme enough. Their goals aren't big enough for what he feels that the Russian military should be doing. Again, that's the original Kremlin goal, or not the original, but now the Kremlin's goal is just to take over Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts and the Donbas. But Igor Girkin and the mill bloggers, the pro-Russian mill bloggers, far right, if you will, the social media train, if you will, that keep the internet, keep the people that are pro-Russian on the internet happy. Those that pound Russian propaganda out there and just regurgitate it are saying that that is not good enough and that all of Ukraine must be captured. Girkin and Mishtranik's statements taken together indicate that Russian nationalists continue to push for further territorial gains and, at least in Girkin's case, full-scale regime change and the incorporation of most of Ukraine into Russia. Pastruchev's statement suggests that Kremlin thinking may not be that far removed from these extremist nationalist ambitions. The Kremlin wants to toe those lines. They're just walking on a tightrope with it because they don't want to just full-on admit that that's what they are. They do, but they don't, in a sense. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Pastruchev restated, so these are the key takeaways for the news within Russia before we get into each individual front and go into each individual change within the war. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Pastruchev restated Russian President Vladimir Putin's initial objectives for operations in Ukraine, suggesting that the Kremlin retains maximalist objectives, including regime change and territorial expansion, far beyond the Donbas. Russian forces continued offensive operations northwest and east of Slovyansk. Russian forces are attempting to advance west of Lysychansk area towards Sievierodonetsk. Russian forces are likely attempting to gain access to the village roads southeast of Bakhmut in order to advance on the city from the south. Ukrainian forces conducted a limited counterattack southwest of Donetsk city. Russian forces continued limited and unsuccessful assaults in northern Kharkiv Oblast. Russian authorities are conducting escalated conscription measures in occupied territories to compensate for continuing manpower losses. Russian authorities are continuing to consolidate administrative control of occupied areas of Ukraine, likely to set conditions for the direct annexation of these territories into the Russian Federation. Monster's good. So now we're going to go into each individual front. And the main effort in eastern Ukraine comprised of 1 subordinate and 3 supporting efforts. The subordinate main effort is encirclement of Ukrainian troops in the cauldron between Izium and Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. Then we're going to talk about Kharkiv city and the southern axes. We're going to talk about mobilization and generation force efforts, and then we're going to finish it up with activities in Russian occupied areas. You can find this report in the description of our video. We include them in every single stream for our sources. So, main effort, Eastern Ukraine. Let's go into the Donbas. I'm going to be highlighting some key cities and directions in which each military is moving, either retreating or advancing. So here's Sievierodonetsk, Lysychansk, Popasna. Again, these are the red on the map is Russian cities, Russian-controlled cities. And the blue on the map I'm going to have as Ukrainian-controlled cities within Ukraine. There's Bakhmut, Sievierodonetsk, which these 2 cities are next on the chopping block for threat of Russian control. No, that's not mentioned. Kostyaniivka, Drzdivka, Kramatorsk, Slovyansk. That's the line after these 2 cities, the line of cities along the N20 highway. Advidka's here. It's not really shown on the map. But here's Advidka. A couple more Russian-held Ukrainian cities. Lyman, Izium. Okay, now let's draw on the main highways, the ground lines of communication, supply lines. E40. It's the E40 highway that the Russians are using from the Izium direction southeast towards Slovyansk. T1302 highway. Ukrainians were using, now the Russians are using it. Lysychansk. T0513 highway. The Ukrainians are using that for their retreat out of Lysychansk. So let's see here. We got the try to do this so there's less clutter. The E40. Okay, that's the E40. You got the T0513. I'm just going to label that the 513 highway. And then here's the 1302. There's a T1302 highway there. It's kind of hard to read that. It's very hard to read that. Let's do this. I've been doing this for a while now, and it's never getting easier drawing with the mouse. I think I'd be getting better at it. But that's the T1302 highway. Here's the 513 highway that the Ukrainians are using for their retreat. All right. Back to blue for the Ukrainian retreat. That's good. And that's the direction the Ukrainians are leaving Lysychansk. Similar to that, the Russians are right behind them. We can draw an arrow here too with the Russian advance, because that's the direction the Russians are advancing. Show some more of the Russian areas of advance with the red arrows. Using this E40 highway in Izium. They're to the northeast of the E40 in Slovyansk. I forgot to highlight Kreminna. This is where the Chechens are coming from. And they're coming from the north, advancing towards Sievierodonetsk. There we go. That's the best way to put it. There we go. Little less clutter than I wanted. All right, that's good. And then Advidka down here. Okay, that's good. So let's just do, oops. Russia. Little map key features so you guys don't get lost. Ukraine. Oops. Road. Okay, that's a road. And I'm not going to draw the river anymore because it just adds a little bit more confusion, and it's not really a key feature anymore now because the Russians have advanced even further past it. Okay, so you got Russian territory, or excuse me, Russian cities in the red. Blue cities are Ukrainian held cities, and then the purple on our map is always going to be the roads. All right, and then any individual area that I'm talking about or need to highlight when I'm reading the latest update. So say I'm going to be talking about this area a lot in the east. I will circle it in this lime green so you guys know what area here in the east I am talking about. So like when I'm talking about specific regions, I will highlight it in the green. All right. So, the main effort in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces continued offensive operations to the northwest and east of Slovyansk on July 5th. Ukrainian Defense Ministry spokesperson Oleksandr Moschyanak stated that elements of the Russian 8th and 58th Combined Arms Armies, Mobilization Reserve of the 1st and 2nd Army Corps, forces of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, and elements of the 2nd Guards Tank Army, 41st Combined Arms Army, 90th Tank Division, 68th Army Corps, and the Airborne Forces are currently active in Donbas and are likely participating in efforts to advance on Slovyansk. Talking about here. This is Slovyansk. Russian forces conducted artillery strikes against Ukrainian positions southeast of Izium along the E40 highway and fired on Dubrovny, Dolnya, Adamivka, Bolodarichny, and Mazanivka. Russian forces also fired on Krivya Luka about 20 kilometers east of Slovyansk in order to continue to set conditions for advances on Slovyansk from the southwest of Lyman. Slovyansk Mayor Vadim Laika reported that Russian forces conducted an artillery strike directly on Slovyansk and indicated that artillery strikes in the city have recently intensified. So that's going on, and that's going on right here. City of Slovyansk. The Russians advancing, they're trying to advance from the Lyman direction. So here's south, would be southwest of Lyman, would be right here. This is Lyman. And then here's Izium, where the Russians are advancing from. So the major two cities the Russians are advancing on Slovyansk are from Lyman and Izium. They're advancing to the northeast and to the northwest of Slovyansk. Doesn't seem that there's been any territorial gains by the Russian military. Rather, they're preparing for an advance on this city here, on Slovyansk. Nothing to report for territory gains. Russian forces continued efforts to push west from Lysychansk and the Luhansk Oblast border towards Sievierodonetsk on July 5th. Now we're talking about here. This is Sievierodonetsk. This is the next one. These Sievierodonetsk and Bakhmut are these two cities here between that connect the 513 highway. Excuse me, that the 513 highway connects. These two cities are the next two that are under direct threat of Russian control after the Russians took Lysychansk and Sievierodonetsk in the past month now. Sievierodonetsk is definitely next, and then after that it'd be Bakhmut, and then they'll be working towards Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhnivka, and Kostyanivka. Russians are. I'm going to use red. Oh shoot! Russians are trying. I'm going to use red now to reflect this. The Russians are trying to just go ahead and close off this whole cauldron of villages in here. See this red line? They're trying to just go ahead and get all of this. This is their goal right now. The main Russian objective. There's like two. There's securing the rest of the Donbas and securing this area and making this red, and then Russifying and integrating the already controlled cities into the Russian Federation. And those efforts are being fumbled, and there's no clear plan. There's no clear annexation plan into the Russian Federation. And we'll get to it, in the southern axes, they've had to go on the defense and had to pause those Russification efforts. So that's the advance on Sievierodonetsk from Lysychansk. Russian sources also reported that Russian troops have begun demining and clearing Sievierodonetsk and Lysychansk to expand their control and administrative presence of the area and continue to use it as a base for future offensives to the west. Russian forces continued offensive operations southeast of Bakhmut on July 5th. That's over here. Here's Bakhmut. Now we're talking about this city. And we're talking about what's going on in here. Okay, this is the highlight. Russian forces conducted ground assaults on Novoluhansky, about 25 kilometers southeast of Bakhmut, and Vershnya, about 10 kilometers southeast of Bakhmut, and shelled Ukrainian positions between Novoluhansky and Bakhmut in the areas of Kodyma and Zatyevsy. The continued targeting of Ukrainian positions southeast of Bakhmut indicates that Russian forces likely seek to gain access to village roads between Novoluhansky and Bakhmut that lead to the T0513 highway. Remember, that's north. That's just northwest of the T1302 highway that connects Sievierodonetsk and Bakhmut. That's a key Ukrainian ground line of communication supply line here. This area of road here, getting the retreat from Ukrainians out of Lysychansk, and then just in general, these two cities are under threat of Russian control next. The Russian advance is getting close. They're on the outskirts of those cities. The continued targeting of Ukrainian positions southeast of Bakhmut indicates that Russian forces can likely seek to gain access to village roads between Novoluhansky and Bakhmut that lead to the T0513 highway, which runs northwards directly into Bakhmut. Opening that route along the E40 highway would allow them to advance on Bakhmut along two converging axes. That E40 continues. I'm going to continue drawing now. Maybe I need to include that now. So here's where they're talking about. The E40 goes down here into Russian controlled territory. Right? So they can use there's the E40 from Izium to Slovyansk, and then I need to circle Horlivka now, because this is where the Russians are held, and they're advancing from here. City of Horlivka. I'll draw an arrow here. Okay, advancing along this portion of the E40 highway down here as well. Let me draw that. E40 down here. Okay, so you got the E40 from Izium to Slovyansk, and then you also got it here from Horlivka up to Bakhmut. And the Russians are advancing north on that E40 highway. Right, all around Bakhmut, from two areas of approach, just similar to Sievierodonetsk. Sievierodonetsk, you got the Russians approaching to the north and to the east, right? You got the Russians up here, the Chechens, And then you got all the Russians approaching from the Lysychansk, from the Ukrainian retreat up here. And they're converging on Sievierodonetsk, the Russian military. They're converging from the north and to the east. And on Bakhmut, they're approaching from the south, from Horlivka and to the east. So they're pinching these two cities. Well, not completely. If the Russian forces in Lyman are more focused on Slovyansk than they are Sievierodonetsk. So they're not seeing any Russians coming from this direction to threaten them from the northwest as well. But right now it's just focused to the north and to the east. But these two cities, Sievierodonetsk and Bakhmut, are next. All right, they're the next Lysychansk and Sievierodonetsk. If the Ukrainians can't get some heavy artillery in these cities of Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Doriska, the Ukrainians need heavy artillery like back here, right? They need like all of the heavy artillery like back here in whatever key tactical positions they can get back here in these villages. They need all of their artillery back here so they can just prevent the Russian advance and then continue to bring in fresh resources and troops from the west into this front line here to prevent the Russian advance. Otherwise, they're going to continue taking these cities in here in the east. They're on a projected path of taking these two cities next, Bakhmut and Sievierodonetsk. In terms of Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, and Druzhnivka and Kostyanivka, that is to be unknown right now. If the Russians power through Sievierodonetsk and Bakhmut, then that'll be something we'll be talking about very soon. We'll be talking about these cities next. But right now it's Sievierodonetsk and Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces conducted a limited counterattack southwest of Donetsk city on July 5th. Ukrainian and Russian sources reported that Ukrainian troops regained control of Solody, about 30 kilometers southwest of Donetsk city. Russian forces also continued to fire at Ukrainian positions along the line of contact in the Donetsk city Advidka area. And that is that. That is the latest update. Let me repurple temporarily this part. I need to purple it first. Purple it and then highlight Orlivka and the Russian advance here. Okay. So that is what's going on in the east. A lot of changes going on here in the far east, if you will, in the Lysychansk and Sievierodonetsk. Keeping it simple. Down here along the territory gains, it's more of a draw down here now. Oops. Draw attrition down here in this front, because in this individual front in the east, there's about 3 pockets, if you will. There's one in the Izium Lyman direction. There's one in Lysychansk, Sievierodonetsk, Popasna, and then in here, right? And then there's one to the south in Advidka, Horlivka. I'm just going to include all that in this portion, and then we'll include all this in this front. Three main sub, if you will, like sub fronts within the east in 3 directions. In the Izium Lyman, Sievierodonetsk, Lysychansk, Popasna, and then Horlivka and Advidka here to the south. It's a W for the day for Russia again here in the far east, as it has been for many days in a row now, because they're gaining territory here and are threatening to take 2 more Ukrainian cities here in the coming week. Lyman and Izium L, no territory gains, nothing. There are no advances, just more preparing to advance, if you will, from Lyman, but nothing here from the Russian military in an advance on Slovyansk. No territory gains. So draw to the south. The Russians are advancing along the E40 highway north from Horlivka toward Bakhmut, trying to pinch them off here in this direction. In the far east, in Lysychansk, Sievierodonetsk, Kremina, Popasna, it'd be a W for continued territory gains by the Russian military, and the Ukrainians are retreating from the area. And then in the northeast, in the northeast of this pocket, Izium, Lyman, Slovyansk could be an L for the Russian military, as no advances have been made and just nothing new to report other than they're just preparing to advance on Slovyansk. This L could change soon, though, if the Russians start to move their equipment around, and now that they've taken Lysychansk and they're going to take likely going to take Sievierodonetsk. If they'll move some of their equipment up into here now, that could help the Russians advance and take Slovyansk quicker. It's all depending on if the Ukrainians get equipment. If the Ukrainians can get artillery to prevent this from happening. Otherwise, this is what's projected. If the Ukrainians don't get heavy artillery to prevent this from happening. Okay? So that is what's going on in the east. Now let's get up into the Kharkiv Oblast. And I'll just highlight main cities here real quick. Belgorod. I think I'm saying it right now. Belgorod, right? The trolls usually will be like, he's saying it wrong. He's saying Belgrade. It's not Belgrade. Here's the main ground line of communication, the E105 highway. The main roadway. The main one. That was junk. I drew that terrible. Try that one again. I did bad on this one too, whatever. Then you got the T2117. The T2117 branches off in a couple different directions, but this one's talked about. I got to highlight a couple more Ukrainian cities. Zolochiv and Durachi. Okay. So let me do the E105 highway. And then the N2117. Highway here and here. Those are like I'm writing the highways because they're referenced frequently. And those are the two main ground lines of communication, supply lines for both the Russian military and the Ukrainians. This is in Russia. Belgorod is in Russia. Okay? Russia, Kharkiv, Ukraine. So this is the international border here between Ukraine and Russia. You think there'd be more ground fighting or heavily contested ground fighting more so going on here, being at the border between Russia and Ukraine, but that's not the case. There's more intense fighting going on in the Donbas within Ukraine than there is here. Kharkiv City. Russian forces continue limited ground assaults north of Kharkiv City on July 5th. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian forces are focusing on maintaining defensive positions and repelling Ukrainian advances, and that Russian troops attempted an unsuccessful assault near Sonivka. The Durachi City Council reported that Ukrainian forces also repelled Russian assaults on Prujanya, Demanivka, and Potomnik. Russian forces continued intense air and artillery strikes on Ukrainian military infrastructure and force concentrations in Kharkiv City and the surrounding settlements. L for Russia in Kharkiv in this oblast. Ukrainians repelled all attacks from the Russian military. All right. All advances have been repelled from the Russian military here in the northeast. So for Russia, it'd be an L here for the day. One big L. Nothing else to report. Just bombardments from the Russian military on Ukrainian infrastructure around Kharkiv. So missile strikes. Those aren't the best. I don't even know. I need to come up with an icon. I need to come up with an icon for just artillery strikes. But that's all that happened. No territory gains or losses here in the northeast. Now let's go to the southern axes in Ukraine. Talk about that from Mykolaiv to Mariupol. Highlight some of the cities really quick. City of Kherson, Melitopol, Mariupol, Bryansk, Chernodahar, Vaslivka, That's the main ones, okay? Highlight some of the major Ukrainian cities in this axis. Mykolaiv, Kryvyi Rih, Zaporizhia. That's the main ones. If there's any more I need to highlight, I will. And then we'll highlight the Ukrainian counterattack advance. Okay. And then the main supply line, ground line of communication the Russians use here, which is the E-58. Wow. This is the E-58 highway. This is what they use to bring all new troops, equipment, supplies, medical supplies, anything that frontline units will need. These are what these ground lines of communication, main supply lines provide. And this is the E-58. Same with over here. Right, it's the E-58 main supply line, ground line of communication for the Russian military. And then we can just do arrows. Maybe using that. Back and forth. Okay, just go. This E-58 highway goes all the way from Kherson into Russia. It goes all the way. Let's get the update. Kharkiv City, Russian objective, defend ground lines of communication to Izium and prevent Ukrainian forces from reaching the Russian border. Russian forces continue limited ground assaults north of Kharkiv City on July 5th. Excuse me, wrong area. There we are. Russian forces prioritize holding defensive lines and repelling Ukrainian counteroffensives along the southern axes on July 5th. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command reported that Ukrainian forces repelled a Russian platoon-level attack near Lizov, which is southwest of Davdiv Brid in the Kherson Oblast, which indicates that Ukrainian forces likely either re-established a bridgehead at Lizov at an unspecified previous date or have consistently maintained the one they established early in June. This report is the first mentioned by Ukrainian officials of control of terrain on the left bank of the Inhlowets River near Davdiv Brid since the Ukrainian General Staff reported a Ukrainian counteroffensive near Syrki Satovk on June 5th. So I'm going to highlight where we're talking about with that in the Ukrainian counteroffensives. That is all up in here. Ukrainians controlling the left side of the Inhlowets River. It's hard to see. Let's go with pink. No. I'm trying to find a color that I could highlight the river a little easier. Maybe pink might be the color to use. But the river, I'm just going to highlight the area of the river, okay? The river squiggles are here. They go up from Kherson. So this is where the river goes. It does something like this, right? Just in general, that's loosely based upon the river, and then the river continues up through here. Then it goes up in here. It does some. It's very, this is the river in Inhlowets, all the way up. So the Ukrainian counterattacks are being focused, and they're on each side of it now, of this river, and it's been. The Russians have been able to hold the Ukrainians off from getting to the eastern side of the river, and now the Ukrainians are on that side. Reports are suggesting that the Ukrainians have actually been holding that position since June 5th, since the report came out. So again, without the circles, I'll use green. Here's the Inhlowets from Kherson, just loosely. This isn't exact. It does some squiggles, right? It's hard to. Then it goes up here, right? This is the Inhlowets. Then the Ukrainian counterattack, so the focus of this is in here. Okay, that's the Inhluetz River, loosely. This report is the first mentioned by Ukrainian officials took control of the left bank of the Inhluetz River near the Davdi Bridge. Sorry, that would be the western bank. I do apologize. Not they control the eastern bank. Now they control the western bank. I do apologize. I got that wrong. While exact control of terrain around the Zov and Davdi Bridge remains unclear, Ukrainian forces did seize some territory in this area. NASA's Fire Information for Resource Management remotely sensed data shows fires near south and east of the Zov on July 5th, consistent with the Ukrainian Southern Operational Command's report. Russian forces continued targeting Ukrainian military infrastructure behind the line across the southern axes on July 5th. So, nothing real new, just that just a report confirming earlier reports from June that the Ukrainians had control of both sides of the river, and it's gone back and forth. And now they're just affirming that the Ukrainians do hold the western bank of the river now too, along this Inhluetz River here. But no territory gains or losses by either side. It's more of a draw down here for the day. Russians are bolstering their defenses in Kherson. That is the one continuous report in Kherson, because the Ukrainians are very close, right outside the city center. The Ukrainian counteroffensives. The Russians have had to go from a stance of Russifying the city, like they're trying to do in Melitopol and Berdyansk and Mariupol, trying to do the exact same thing here in Kherson. They're facing protests and resistance to the occupation. And now that the Ukrainians are so close with their counteroffensives, they've had to go on the defense now at this point. Lisa with $1.32 super chat, and Larry with $1.32 super chat. Thank you so much for sending that on YouTube. And that is the update in the southern axes for the day on July 5th, 2022. All right, now we're going to just talk about force generational capabilities and activities within Russian-held territory. Mobilization and force generation efforts. Russian objective: expand combat power without conducting general mobilization. Russian authorities continue to escalate conscription measures in order to support force generation efforts. Ukrainian Defense Ministry spokesperson Oleksandr Motsyanak stated that Russian forces have intensified conscription practices to provide more manpower for the 2nd Army Corps, forces of the Luhansk People's Republic, which likely suffered considerable losses during protracted operations for control of the Slovyansk and Sievierodonetsk. The Ukrainian Resistance Center also stated that Russian authorities are preparing for conscription in Berdyansk by ordering building managers to provide lists of conscription-aged residents. Russian authorities will likely continue to set conditions for conscription in occupied territories to renew combat capabilities. Building managers providing lists of conscription-aged residents. So your private information in the Russian Federation, that doesn't exist. If you're in the Russian-controlled cities within Ukraine, if you live in an apartment building and you live in if you live in a Russian-occupied territory, you're going to get conscripted into the Russian military. You're going to get sold out by your building manager or your landlord, because they're now controlled by the Russian government. And you're going to get conscripted into the Russian military and have to go fight for the Russians now. Activity in Russian-occupied areas. Russian objective: consolidate administrative control of occupied areas, set conditions for potential annexation into the Russian Federation or some other future political arrangement of Moscow's choosing. Russian authorities continued efforts to strengthen administrative economic control of occupied areas of Ukraine on July 5th. The Ukrainian Resistance Center claimed that Ukrainian partisans discovered a network of pro-Russian collaborators in occupied Kherson Oblast on July 5th. The report indicated that this network of collaborators informs occupation forces about Ukrainian activities, which suggests that Russian authorities are continuing to leverage pro-Russian sentiment to extend control over the occupied areas. However, the Ukrainian Resistance Center also claimed that Russian authorities have failed to find enough collaborators to form an occupation government in Kherson Oblast and are therefore installing officials directly from Russia. This claim is consistent with the previous reports that proxy leadership in the Donetsk People's Republic has imported several Russian public administration officials to the DNR government to shape its policies under a Russian framework. Despite the number of Ukrainian collaborators in the Kherson Oblast, Russian occupation authorities likely prefer Russian officials in administrative roles to align occupied areas with the Russian system on an administrative level. This phenomenon may indicate that Russians are preparing to annex the occupied territories directly to the Russian Federation, rather than establishing one or more independent statelets. So they're going to be just integrated right into Russian Federation instead of being their own entity, like a Transnistria, if you will. Occupation authorities are continuing measures to integrate Ukrainian economic assets into the Russian trade economy. The Russian-backed head of Zaporizhia Occupation Administration, Yevgeny Baltsyny, stated that occupation authorities in the Zaporizhia Oblast have agreed to export Ukrainian grain to Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq. Baltsyny claimed that administration will export over 150,000 tons of grain to Iran alone. Both the Study of War and Critical Threats Project have sought, but not found, confirmation of these reports from Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Russian authorities continue to consolidate control of Ukrainian energy assets. The Ukrainian Resistance Center reported on July 5th that Russian authorities intend to restaff the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant with Russian employees, likely mostly from Rosgeneratom. The Ukrainian Resistance Center claimed that Russian authorities intend to disconnect the NPP from the Ukrainian power grid by the end of September, which indicates that Russian authorities intend to fully divert Ukrainian energy into the Russian Federation. And that is your update, your map update for July 5th. One more time, I'm going to go into the key takeaways. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Pushcharev restated Russian President Vladimir Putin's initial objectives for operations in Ukraine, suggesting that the Kremlin retains maximalist objectives for operations in Ukraine, suggesting that the Kremlin retains maximalist objectives including regime change and territorial expansion far beyond the Donbas. Russian forces continued offensive operations northwest and east of Slovyansk. Russian forces are attempting to advance west of Lysychansk around Sievierodonetsk. Russian forces are likely attempting to gain access to village roads southeast of Bakhmut in order to advance on the city from the south. Ukrainian forces conducted a limited counterattack southwest of Donetsk city. Russian forces continued limited and unsuccessful assaults in northern Kharkiv Oblast. Russian authorities are conducting escalated conscription measures in occupied territories to compensate for continuing manpower losses. Russian authorities are continuing to consolidate administrative control of occupied areas of Ukraine, likely to set conditions for the direct annexation of these territories into the Russian Federation. And that is your map breakdown, July 5th, 2022. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thank you guys again for tuning into these map updates. And let me know in the comments any recommendations you guys have going forward. Thank you. All right, y'all, that's our map update of the stream. And again, those will be posted individually afterwards. If you guys want a full comprehensive breakdown and just the map updates and not all of this, not like the video clip sections, or if you're just looking for that portion of the stream, like an edited version of that, you can look for that posted to the channel in between the streams. So tomorrow, that whole breakdown I just did of the map and like a nice 20 to 25 minute version of that will be posted at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And that'll always be that. And we'll try to get that on Facebook as well. But if you're looking for that, definitely come subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's a lot easier to post video content on YouTube than it is on the Facebook page. But I will try to get that to the Facebook page as well. So with that being said, let's get into our video clip section now of the stream. If you guys haven't, smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to us here on YouTube and you're following us on Facebook. Thank you so much from California. Let's do a viewer check-in if you guys have not done so. Comment where you're tuned in from, what city, what state, where in the world you guys are watching from. Just heard me talk a whole lot, and now we're going to get into our video clips and latest combat footage or news updates happening in Ukraine. This is a video from PBS NewsHour, so full credit to them for this. Russian forces declare victory over a key eastern Ukrainian province. Talking about the Luhansk Oblast and Lysychansk.
And called it victory. Russian state television showed off its soldiers' handiwork in Lysychansk, a city that had to be destroyed to be captured. Journalists who entered with Russian forces filmed the symbols of Ukrainian governance gutted and overturned. But also the humanitarian center volunteers say was hit by 50 bombs, the market where civilians shopped, the church where they prayed in the same language as their Russian tormentors. Residents no choice but to switch their loyalties east.
What am I going to do? I'm going to see my kids who are in Russia. That's all for now. Hopefully, I stay alive.
And now Moscow's onto the next urban target. Today, a market in Slovyansk, where the mayor warned residents to evacuate. An apartment complex in Bakhmut, all doors and windows blown out by the Russian rocket whose remnants remain on the street. Over the weekend, Russian forces captured Lysychansk, the final Ukrainian-held city in Luhansk. That allows them to focus on the part...
I've seen people say Lysychansk, Lysychansk, like, I think we're all saying it differently. I'd like to know how to properly say Lysychansk.
...to the Donetsk region they don't already occupy, including today's targets, Slovyansk, Bakhmut, and Kramatorsk. That's where scores of residents lined up outside a humanitarian center to pick up food. It's run by Jose Andres' humanitarian organization, World Central Kitchen. Each bag enough provisions for a month for those who've stayed. 83-year-old Valentina has nowhere else to go.
I'm not going anywhere. We have no money to go anywhere. What will be, will be. If they kill me, they kill me.
Yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared victory in Luhansk, but also hinted the next phase could have to wait.
The units that took part in active hostilities and achieved success, victory in the Luhansk direction, of course, should rest and increase their combat capabilities.
But Russia may have no other choice. Some Western artillery is arriving in eastern Ukraine, giving Ukrainian soldiers more accuracy and mobility. It's an artillery war, as American Isaac saw up close.
It's incredibly intense. I would say that it probably resembles World War II more than it does any of the more recent conflicts.
Isaac, who requested we use only his first name, has been fighting with Ukraine's International Legion. He filmed this video in Sievierodonetsk as they came under artillery fire. He's now temporarily back in the U.S.
The artillery is both incessant, and on the Russian side is also indiscriminate. There are cities that don't exist in the practical sense of the word. There are no services. The infrastructure is completely destroyed.
You served in Iraq, you served in Afghanistan with the U.S. military. What's the difference?
We were the big guys. We had significant material assets. In this case, the tables are turned. In this case, we are outmanned and outgunned.
And why are you going to go back?
The atrocities and the level of disregard for the rules of war that I've seen the Russians do, and I've also been inspired by the courage of the Ukrainian forces.
Ukraine now estimates that what the Russians have done will cost $750 billion to reconstruct. That's 5 times the country's GDP, and is also the GDP of Switzerland, where this week European leaders pledged to help the country recover.
They want to undermine Ukraine's very existence as a state. We cannot and we will never let that happen.
And accept Ukraine into the EU already, and just making processes long for what? The whole purpose of the European Union and NATO and these defensive organizations was for exactly what's happening right now. And they're continuing to just sit on their hands. And that's just annoyed me from the beginning, because that's the entire reason that those organizations exist, was after World War II, to prevent something like what Russia is doing to Ukraine from happening. And the fact that they're making Ukraine go through these applications, I mean, just like wild, dude, while they're being invaded. Video of DNR Vostok Battalion fighter with the CUAS gun in the Voldahar area. So this is one of the last videos we saw yesterday, and if you missed it, one of those futuristic space-looking guns that can take drones out of the sky. This is from a DNR soldier from the separatists in the Donetsk Oblast.
Парс российского производства по борьбе с БПЛА. Поступила на вооружение, так как сейчас очень активно применяются беспилоты, они мешают активно работать то приходится, нужно применять, не то что приходится, а нужно применять подобные ружья.
A lot of the hurdles Ukraine has to jump through, though, is due to the previous control and just corruption in the country that took place before Zelensky took over. Country was ran by a pro-Russian stooge prior to Zelensky. This is an anti-drone jammer. This takes drones out of the sky. Many different versions of it.
Он сам падает, либо принудительно он сажается в нужную нам точку.
Так, а оператор что в это время видит?
Оператор теряет полностью сигнал.
У него просто гаснет экран, да?
Гаснет экран, и он не может управлять им. То есть мы глушим полностью сигнал, GPS, управление.
Looks like a Starship Troopers gun.
Нейтрализуем.
This is what the mods use to blast the trolls out of our chat, by the way. Shout out to our amazing mod team every single night that tunes in and helps keep our chat free of those porn bots and garbage that YouTube doesn't filter out. And we have to have moderators that don't get paid by Google to do that. So thank you to our moderators. Video of Russian Tor M1 air defense systems within Ukraine. It does, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's heavy. It looks like it's like a one of those Fisher-Price, you know what I mean? Those old plastic Fisher-Price toys that were just bulky and didn't have any, they didn't weigh much. It was like a plastic Fisher-Price toy, but definitely not a toy. Those things are expensive. Here's one of their tuberculosis machines. Kidding, it's their Tor M1 system. Electronic warfare system. Radar jamming. All out in the field by itself. I'm all alone. And there's nobody here beside me. So clearly like a training video, or like a video that just kind of shows what this thing does. You gotta watch a screen from 40 years ago. In most Department of Defense, in terms of the United States, because I am a U.S. Army veteran, I served in the U.S. Army for 4 years active duty, 4 years in the reserves, with one tour to the Middle East under Operation Enduring Freedom. And we have computer systems in our vehicles. We don't have to look on a TV screen that looks like your substitute teacher rolled it into class to play a video for the day that we had to, like back in the day. Looks like some shit off those old projectors. I don't know what the hell that is, but we have higher quality equipment than that by a long shot. And the U.S. military shit isn't even the best either. Military grade means nothing. I'm telling you that right now. If you see something that says military grade, find something else. It doesn't mean anything. That's the military grade means they found the lowest bidder and the lowest available cost that they can go with, the cheapest the cheapest route to get it done. Don't go for military grade. Video of 2S4 Tuplion 240mm heavy mortars in service with a DNR artillery crew. They get y'all on the military grade all the time. Military grade. Get your Ford F-650.
Мы находимся на одном из полигонов республики. Здесь мобилизованные ребята, которые еще несколько месяцев назад были простыми гражданскими людьми проходят обучение по управлению тяжелых минометов калибром 240 мм «Тюльпан». Данная машина работает на Авдеевском направлении и выполняет задачи по уничтожению целей украинской артиллерии. И как мы видим, Донецкий в последние дни стало несколько...
Listen, I don't want to hear that Twitter isn't a valid place to get information because all of the mainstream news are literally taking all of the information coming out of Russia from Telegram and Russian social media sites. So the Russians are posting their happenings on social media, and the mainstream news is parroting those and taking that information and reporting that as news. So I don't want to hear that Twitter isn't a valid place or social media isn't a valid place to source news, because it is. Good day, Andrew. Just ordered my usual pad thai, prams, satay, and some penang. I probably wrote those wrong. Hate Mouth, Burn, stocking up. Shout out to all my good mates. I've been here. What a great community. Thank you so much, Revenge, for the super chat. So again, what we're looking at here is Tupoleon 240 millimeter, which are very big pieces of artillery, right? Very large. DNR artillery crews. That's a big boy.
Рано утром они отработали, вернулись в пункт назначения свой, где они базируются. И ребята продолжают, наши бойцы продолжают повышать свой уровень войсковой квалификации.
No. See, the troll, then they... Okay, I'm not even going to entertain them. If you think that you have this idea of me being this, like... I mean, I am pro-Ukraine. I do want Ukraine to win. But if you feel that I'm just like this hype beast for Ukraine that's just sitting here only reporting on Ukrainian wins as if they're going to take Moscow, that's not what this channel is. It's a very... I try to keep it as real as I can. I report both sides. Right now we're literally watching a Russian military video, so it's like the trolls, especially the trolls that comment after the videos get posted, because they never are brave enough to comment in the live chat, but it's just wild to me. Like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the viewers in the chat? Are you talking to me? Because I definitely don't hide from the Russian side of this war at all. Wild. Can't do anything right anymore. Video of artillery strikes from Ukraine's 95th Air Assault Brigade. So now here's a Ukraine video. So we just watched a Russian video. Now we're going to watch a Ukraine one because they're trying to keep it even here. Video of artillery strikes from Ukraine's 95th Air Assault Brigade on a Russian piece of equipment. Looks like the first vehicle may have been struck by a top attack munition. Can't do anything right anymore. You can see all of the craters in the ground. There's some massive craters. The massive craters. Compilation of videos from Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade of strikes on Russian T-80 BV tanks. The second tank was previously recorded. Thank you, Rick. I think Ukraine is winning. Russia did not take the country. Russia's the second largest. Russia's the second strongest superpower in the world and didn't take Ukraine like they had planned. They failed miserably. They're winning in the East, and that is it. I don't see anybody that is trolling countering my point that Russia is only winning in the Donbas. That's it. They're not winning anywhere else in Ukraine. Period. Easy analysis. You don't have to do much to figure that out. They're winning in the Donbas, and that is it. They're advancing in the east. We go through a map breakdown every stream before we get into the video clips. Explosions near Kamaz Center in Donetsk. inside of Donetsk. The Russians tried to take Kyiv and failed miserably. What do you think? What makes you think they can take it now? They already tried. Yes, they did try to take Ukraine. That's why their soldiers were in the north. So we have copium trolls now in the chat. The copium trolls have arrived. Why don't y'all come while I'm doing the map breakdown? Why do you wait to the video clip section? Must be something with the algorithm. Video of Ukrainian artillery strikes on a Russian tank and trucks. Russian tank and trucks getting blown up, getting highlighted. I always wait till the video clips. You think so, Tony? Yeah, the Russians went from the second most powerful military in the world to the second most powerful military within Ukraine. Because they're definitely not, they're like, without their rockets, they should just change Russia to rockets from now on. Rockets, that's all they got. Ground troops non-existent. Video of Ukrainian UAV dropping ammunition on Russian troops. Russians, well, I don't. After what we've seen in Ukraine, Russia, talking about Russia's strength and NATO strength, Russia would need help of other countries at this point. After what we've seen, they need help from China and Iran if and when that's going to happen. The SNCO, what's that thing called? I'm getting, I gotta look this thing up. I always forget what it's called. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, or the Shanghai Pact. So all the countries in that, Russia would need help. They have no ground force capabilities at all, and they have no training. Their military, their ground force, their infantry, their main forces, their generals are fighting on the ground with them. That doesn't happen in NATO, in NATO countries, and especially in the United States. In the U.S. Army, we have non-commissioned officers. We have sergeants that help facilitate the ground battles or what's going on the ground, so you don't have high-level officers like in the trench with the private. That is ridiculous. It is wild for me to think that so many generals have been killed. They're like on the ground with privates or conscripts for Russia. Russia definitely would need help of China and Iran. They could not do it by themselves. Orlan 10 UAV footage showing a Russian artillery strike on a Ukrainian M777 howitzer in the Mykolaiv Oblast. So one thing we have learned is Russia can't do it alone. And I served in the U.S. Army. What do you mean? My last rank I got out was an E5 sergeant. Generals do not fight on the ground with soldiers in conventional militaries, and at least in NATO, at least in the U.S. Army. We have too much of a rank structure for that to even be a thing. Like, my brain doesn't even comprehend that. Like a general, like sitting like that, my brain, it doesn't work. Whenever a general came around, it would be a dog and pony show day. You don't want the general around, because then you got to act. It's just a weird vibe. The chain of command, your commander acts a little extra that day. It just sucks. You don't want the general around. You stay in your own admin building. What are you talking about? Yeah, maybe Russian generals fight alongside their privates, that not in any other military. It's ridiculous. It'd be even wild to see maybe even a first sergeant or like an E8 in terms of high, you know, NCOs. I'm trying to even think like what the highest rank you could maybe find in like a foxhole with you. Definitely staff sergeants. E7s if they're got a shitty shaft, a shitty detail, like a sergeant first class or a. But even that, I don't even think. I think an E7 would get out of that. No, I don't. Maybe you might get a first sergeant out there just to, you know, see what the shit looks like. But even a first sergeant wouldn't be in the trench with you. And in combat arms, they go on patrol. They go out on convoys, and they can be in a convoy. So like we had to prepare for when the commander or the XO or the first sergeant would come with us on missions, because they do that so they can get their medals and get their time in. That would happen. But beyond that, you got your staff sergeants, your sergeants, E7s, your sergeant first classes that are running the troops out there, not generals. That is ridiculous. Video of Russian temporary railway bridge set up by Russian forces on a river in Ukraine after the primary bridge was destroyed. Why can't I adjust this normally?
Железнодорожный мост взамен старого, взорванного украинскими боевиками. Уникальную переправу наши специалисты инженерных войск сдали на 6 суток раньше срока. Понтонные пролеты на бетонных сваях позволят обеспечить переброску даже тяжелых военных составов. Свидетелем прохода по мосту первого эшелона стал мой коллега Михаил Аброськин.
Многие пути были повреждены или вовсе разрушены, как вот этот самый мост. Но благодаря усилиям железнодорожных войск удалось построить вот такую переправу, не хуже прежней. И теперь...
So if you guys remember that bridge that was blown up, that railway bridge, now you see a temporary bridge has been built in its place.
Щупывая дорогу, буквально двигаясь 5-7 км в час, движется первый за месяц состав.
Yeah, Patton was I mean, well, Patton's a famous general for that, and he's like written in history books for doing so. It's not a common thing, you know what I mean? There's a reason why Patton is known. He was a unique general, very unique.
Очень аккуратно, потому что
it's not a common thing.
Не должно. На борту слишком ценный груз.
Как признали сами военные железнодорожники,
what's the Mad Dog Mattis, General Mattis in Iraq was well known for, I mean, but he was a soldier's type general. Like he'd be out there with the troops talking to them like a human being basically, and not acting like a command authority over him. And that's why so many of the Marines respected General Mattis, because he'd be out there. But it wouldn't be a dog and pony show day when General Mattis would show up. It'd be more like he wants to interact with the soldiers and talk to them. That's a different type of a general. But again, those are very rare. And they're focused on in history. It's not like there's so many generals in the United States military that you don't even hear about. Like they wear a general rank and they're the general. It's not like a huge thing. And the fact that in Russia the generals are on the ground with their soldiers like this, like fighting with them, and not more so just to like recognize what they're doing, that's backwards.
Проблема была не установка пролетов, а отсыпка 700 метров подъездных путей на берегах. Почва в этом районе заболоченная, поэтому землю под будущей насыпи пришлось серьезно укрепить. Планируется, что восстановленную ветку Минобороны будет использовать для доставки военных и гуманитарных грузов.
All right, so that's the new bridge that was built alongside the railway bridge that Ukraine destroyed. Here airs a Vidka video showing R-18 UAVs dropping munitions on Russian trucks and MTLB tanks, a 2S3, Akatsia, and other vehicles. But I mean, a lot of people are bringing up the old way, and I mean, yeah, in like World War II, Russia operates in the old decades of. They're just not up to date with their shit. Like they draw in what military unit they belong to in chalk or spray paint on their vehicles. That Z is just to indicate what unit they're coming from. It wasn't before. It was a big propaganda symbol that is like a symbol of hate or whatever. Their symbol from the Russian military. It's just an indicator from where it originated from, because they're so not technologically up to date with the rest of the world that they have to do old way shit like that and mark their vehicles with that. Whereas like in the US military or in NATO, you have call signs or you have radio communications between trucks, and the trucks can communicate to each other. And not only that, each truck can do this, but it's whatever you deem before your convoy commander will have access and be able to radio up to your higher command too. So that the convoy elements that are out there, or whatever even infantry elements, can bring a Sincar's radio with them and put it in radio to higher. There's always communication. There's communication in NATO, communication in the U.S. military. We have hours upon hours upon hours worth of classes teaching communicate. I taught the radio class. I was in charge of radio communications. I could set up a Sincar's radio in like 10 seconds. Probably even faster. Get it loaded up, get the frequency in there, and get it good to go. And I'd be in charge of that. And it's super simple. But the Russians don't even have something like that. They don't even have comms. Video reportedly of the CAM AZ Center in Donetsk. Okay. Ukrainian troops used amphibious PTS-2 vehicles in the retreat from Sievierodonetsk.
Доброго вечора, ми з України.
Sorry, that is a copyrighted audio. Look like those look like U-boats crossing the rivers. Those rivers are a major roadblock to Russia in Sievierodonetsk and Lysychansk in June, at the end of May and early June, before they were able to establish proper routes to cross the river. They need more amphibious PTS-2 vehicles. You can drive too. Let's look up that amphibious PTS-2. I haven't seen that being used yet. Some of the amphibious maneuvering. Of course, it's a Soviet transport vehicle. Oh, so it's tracked. It's a tracked vehicle. I don't know what the Soviet Union's obsession with tracked vehicles was. We want tracks on all of our vehicles, every single one. This is probably a better video. I don't think we're gonna get any information, but just some video of what it looks like. I try to find educational military equipment videos like this is when it was created, this is what it can do, etc. Some of them it's hard to find, especially these Soviet vehicles. You can transport CAM AZ trucks on there. These troop transport trucks, it can carry those. The one we were watching was a Ukrainian one. This is obviously a Russian one. They go right into the water, transport that truck across the river. And this is they're using these in the Sievierodonetsk River and the Inhluetsk River, along the southern axes and then the eastern axes in Ukraine. Dang. I wonder how, I want to know, can they transport MTLBs? Can they transport BTRs? What's their weight? What's their maximum weight they can haul across the river? I see the CAM AZ trucks. I see that. They can get those across. But can they get the Can they get the CAM or the BTRs and the MTLBs across? From a year ago.
Безопасный выход на берег им обеспечили, установки разминирования запущены из плавающего.
Okay, we're not going to get any further info on that. So that's what the amphibious PTS-2 vehicle is in the retreat from Sievierodonetsk. I'd like to know more on that. Video of artillery strikes from Ukraine's 63rd Mechanized Brigade on Russian positions. If you guys haven't liked the video, hit that like button, spam the reactions in the bottom right corner of the stream on Facebook. We're live on Facebook and YouTube here. Every night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Map update gets posted the next day at 2 p.m. if you missed our map breakdown. But again, if you want to rewatch the stream at any point, you can just rewind, or this gets posted afterwards, so you can catch up or watch anything you might have missed. Make a great RV. You want one of those amphibious trucks? Listen, if you want, go to Wisconsin Dells. There you go. If you live in the United States, if you're around Wisconsin, just go to Wisconsin Dells and you can ride in one of those U-boats that they've made into, what are they called? Duck? I can't remember what they're called. Little duck vehicles or something, but you can ride in those and ride in the river. A captured Russian T-72 B3M tank. Go to the Dells. Copyrighted. I wish I could just get the audio without the music and hear the tank sounds. But no, we need the music for the algorithm. Who's this? What the fuck? Alright. Video from Uragan SSO showing Ukrainian artillery strikes on Russian Uragan multiple launch rocket systems. So this is Ukrainian artillery strikes on Russian MLRS trucks. Ukrainian strikes on Russian multiple launch rocket system positions in Ukraine, right? That is Rob Lee. Nothing from John Sweeney, y'all. He's not in Ukraine right now. He's back in London, or he's on the road. I don't know. Maybe he's going back to Ukraine. Who knows? But nothing from John. He hasn't posted or anything. He hasn't provided a diary. He takes breaks. So we'll get back to John when he does return to Kyiv. So now let's go. Devastating news. And if you've been watching my feed since the beginning, we've definitely had this guy on in the videos, but this is a commander of the Belarusian regiment in Ukraine named Brest, was killed in a harsh battle. This dude, he was in the Belarusian fighters videos. He's been in many of the clips. Was a true Belarusian patriot. This is a big loss for us all. Several other Belarusian volunteer fighters are missing. Several have been taken hostage by the Russians. So the Belarusian fighter named Brest, who's been in many of the videos, has been killed in action. Let's go to the new video section. Sole survivor of Russian... No. There's a Russian firing squad. Oh, man.
It's now 4 months since Russian forces were...
A father of his son.
Okay, let's...
It's now 4 months.
I thought it was just going to be the video of the firing squad. That would have been... I don't know if I could play that. But here's from the BBC, a report about the sole survivor of a Russian firing squad. Let's hear about this.
Since Russian forces were accused of committing atrocities amounting to war crimes early in the invasion of Ukraine. Back in early March, 8 unarmed men were shot dead in a mass execution in the suburb of Bucha, which is outside Kyiv, and they were among an estimated 1,000 people who died during the month-long Russian occupation in that region. But one man, who was believed by the Russians to be dead, did manage to escape what's become known as the massacre on Yablunska Street. Our special correspondent, Fergal Keane, has been to meet him. There are some distressing details in the report.
In Ukrainian, it means the place of the apple trees, Yablunska. To the world, it's become synonymous with cruelty. It happened here at 144 Yablunska Street, a nondescript office building, but a crime that defined a new age of atrocity in Europe. This is the story of families shattered by a massacre.
Viewer discretion advised, and the topics and probably imagery shown here is going to be graphic in nature.
A man meant to be dead, but who lived to bear witness. It begins in the opening days of the war, when men on Yablunska Street joined the territorial defence. There were fathers, sons, brothers, neighbours. Anatoly Prohichko joined up to protect his home and family.
I just started getting warm clothes for him. At that time, I felt there was nothing I could say to stop him.
But by March 4th, the Russians were combing Bucha, searching for men of the territorial defence. Anatoly and 8 others were by now hiding here at 31 Yablunska Street. By the following morning, the Russians had encircled the hiding place.
On the 4th, at 10 a.m, he sent me a message saying, "We're still sitting tight." That was his last message.
This is what happened next. CCTV recorded the moments just after the men were captured.
Wow.
This image, obtained by the BBC, shows them being led towards the Russian base at 144 Yablunska Street. A neighbour filmed the next moments through his window. The men can be seen being lined up in front of a wall. Lucy Moskalenko was a witness and was disturbed by the words of a Russian officer.
He told us, don't look at those people lying on the ground. They are not humans. They are absolute dirt. They are not human. They are beasts.
It is through the extraordinary testimony of one man that we know what happened next. Ivan Skiba, a father of 4, was never meant to survive his ordeal.
The conversation went like this. What should we do with them? The second Russian says, finish them off. But just take them away so that they won't be lying here.
The men were led around the corner to a quiet courtyard.
We realized that we were being led to execution, and we simply said goodbye to each other. That was it.
Then the shooting started. Ivan was hit. But the bullet passed through his side, causing only a small wound. He pretended to be dead.
I was lying there, not breathing. It was cold outside. Breath was steaming up from my mouth, so I didn't breathe.
Wow.
I didn't move. And at the same time, I was expecting a shot. That was the most terrifying thing. They were telling jokes to each other. That is, they were in a jolly good mood.
Ivan lay among the dead until the soldiers eventually left. He dragged himself over a fence and escaped. But the dead are close in memory for this haunted survivor and for their families. Every day, Olya Prohichko takes flowers and 2 cups of coffee, one for her, one for him, to her husband's grave.
Менша донечка завжди говорить, що тато рядом.
My younger daughter keeps saying, Papa is near, Papa can see everything, Papa can hear everything. The older one, she gets distracted, like a child, plays. But then she remembers and starts crying.
Do you talk to him still, yourself?
Yes, of course. All the time. When no one can hear me, I call him by his name.
In this grief, the crimes of war will echo for generations. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jablonska Street.
Jablonska Street, scene of the war crimes take place in the firing squad from the Russian military. Evie with that super chat, thank you. Hi Mars. So after that, we got realities of the Russian occupation, forced mobilization, filtration camps, obtaining a Russian passport. So this video goes into some of the Russification going on in some of the occupied cities within Ukraine.
It is impossible to leave your settlement without a special permit. Residents of the part of the Donetsk region, which has been occupied after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, found themselves in such a trap. Even in the smallest settlements of the region, life under the occupation has changed dramatically.
People are told to obtain a DPR passport in order to become a full member of the so-called republic and to be able to move freely. But most people understand that the so-called DPR passport means an immediate mobilization. Volodymyr Veselkin, head of the Myrne military...
So it's like an okie doke. You get this, you get the DNR passport and you're going to get conscripted into the Russian military. What an okie doke.
Civilian administration.
Meanwhile, since July, the occupation authorities in Donetsk started issuing Russian passports.
I accept the citizenship of the Russian Federation voluntarily and consciously.
It is almost impossible to meet men on the streets of Donetsk, local residents say. Many of them were forcibly mobilized for the war against Ukraine.
There is such a mood in the city now that I would say this is a city of brides. Husbands, sons and brothers were taken away from women, a lot of women, and women impose a great deal of burden on themselves. We have water problems in the city. I regularly see women carrying 2 12-liter water bottles in their hands and bags of groceries. Olha, resident of Donetsk, name changed for the Donbas Realities project.
The girl and her boyfriend left the temporarily occupied city. They fled exactly from the forced mobilization.
In order to leave, we paid in terms of dollars, it will probably be $1,500. They drove us at night time. They took us on the sly as refugees from Mariupol. That is, we were traveling with refugees. And all this was done in order to leave that hell we were in. Olha, resident of Donetsk, name changed for the Donbas Realities project.
In the occupied Mariupol, teachers are not allowed to leave the city. So far, such a ban is unofficial, Petro Andrushenko, an advisor to the mayor, reports in his Telegram channel.
All Mariupol teachers are sent to Russia for certification. It is known about Moscow without attestation for knowledge of the fictional history of Russia.
God, that sounds like Nazi Germany. Doesn't that sound like Nazi Germany? Some Nazi shit going on here. Being sent to Russia for certification, so you're teaching Russian history and Russian language, and dude.
Russia and propaganda in Russian, they will not be allowed to work from September. Petro Andrushenko, advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, on Telegram.
Without mobile communication and partially without the internet.
Similar to, if you've seen, anyone seen Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime? It's like an alternate world, as if like the Nazi Germany and Japan won World War II, and in an occupied United States in that show, you have Nazis that have to be sent to Berlin to get for corrective. I can't remember how they put it. To be corrected, or if you act out against the Nazi, it's in the show, but this was in Nazi Germany too. But in the show in the United States, if you act out against, if you're in the Nazi party and you act out against the Nazi party, you had to be sent to Berlin to get reintegrated, or to get retrained or retaught what it means to be a Nazi. Similar to Russia here. Being taught Russian, what it means to be a Russian.
Problems with the supply of medicines and children's goods. The situation on the territory of the temporarily occupied Kherson region remains difficult. At the same time, due to the fear of mass resistance of local residents, the leadership of the Russian occupying forces moves with protection in armored vehicles and body armor. The local military administration reports Russian troops continue to export grain and products to the temporarily occupied Crimea. Compulsory passportization is also being actively introduced in the Kherson region. The Russian occupiers are spreading false information among the population that Ukraine is refusing social payments and pensions. Therefore, it is necessary to get a Russian passport in order to process these payments from Russia. Also, the Russian military continues to block green corridors and evacuation in the region and kidnap civilians.
According to the information of the Crimean Tatar Resource Center, on June 21st and 22nd, the occupiers began to conduct mass sweeps in the temporarily occupied Khanivsk district. In total, the invaders detained up to 50 people. The majority are representatives of the indigenous Crimean Tatar people. It is known that some detainees are taken to the territory of the occupied Crimea and kept in the Simferopol pre-trial detention center. The Crimean Tatar Resource Center.
Meanwhile, the main goal of the deployment of Russian troops from the territory of the previously occupied Crimea to the Kherson region is the seizure of the North Crimean Canal. Water for the needs of the peninsula is taken from the Kakhovka reservoir. Since 2014, for the first time, local residents have launched boats on the North Crimean Canal.
The Ukrainians shut off the water supply to Crimea after the annexation in 2014.
Also, the buses started running from Crimea to the occupied territory of the Kherson region. The locals organize tours, if it can be called like that.
We literally found out in a day that this route was launched and bought tickets the next day.
According to Tamila Tasheva, the permanent representative of the President of Ukraine in Crimea, the peninsula is a hub for the removal of activists, prisoners of war, veterans and representatives of the Crimean Tatar people from the occupied territories. Reported by Pavlo Stelmach, Valeria Sinko, UATV News.
So there's an update from some of the occupied regions in Russia. Forced mobilization, filtration camps, and obtaining Russian passports, which really means, sorry, you get that passport, you're getting conscripted into the Russian military. So here is, and this is going to be viewer discretion here, testimonies of a 19-year-old girl affected by the Kremenchuk's mall fire. So that strike on that Kremenchuk mall, here's a testimony from a 19-year-old girl affected by that. It's not in English. There's no English. Sorry. Can't watch that. No English translations of it. If you can find one, send it to our Discord server. That would have been good to listen to. But I don't speak Ukrainian, and there's no translations there. Welcome back to President Zelensky. Residents of Donetsk film fallout following destruction of a Russian ammo depot positioned among civilian population. This is July 5th. This is in Donetsk.
Очень огромный пожар. Ну, завода больше нет. А вот тут лежат вот такие осколочки. Ух ты, блин. Обалдеть.
Okay. Showing some of the destruction in the area. So, UA soldier shows the dirty tactics used by the Chechen fighters.
Идет человек специально, этим, кстати, решать чеченцы, цепляется вот такой крючочек. И его даже не чувствуешь. Кстати, он практически бляха. Футболку, наверное, придется после этого делать. Вот идет леска, и вверх F1 граната лежит. Сразу же запал идет, и сечет все, что можно в радиусе.
Damn.
Таких вот крючочков, вот, не замечаешь на леске, они болтаются. Вот здесь вот. Вот здесь вот.
Some traps, some of the booby traps.
С этим надо заморачиваться. Вот, кстати,
there's a hook on there too.
Ты даже можешь не замечать. Можешь чем угодно, шлемом, я не знаю, рюкзаком туристическим. Вот здесь вот он идет.
Holy shit. And like, how do you, yeah, those will get caught on your clothes. And then, when you're just walking through the trees, man. Wow. What do we got here? We've seen that video. Here's rare footage of boat use. Russian troops rafting down the Dnieper River captured Ukrainian. No. I don't do POW. I don't do POW videos on either side. The 2B9 Volisek cornflower destroys the occupiers. The cornflower. The hell is that?
What the fuck is that?
Looks a little different than the other one. What the hell? Oh, we definitely have a piece of equipment to look up here. The 2B9 Volisek, the cornflower, on the back of a truck. It's an automatic 82mm mortar gun. It's an 82mm automatic mortar. What the fuck? No, it's an automatic mortar, not a grenade launcher. So it shoots 4-round bursts, basically. Still a 3-man crew. You get away with doing this, probably like a 2-man crew, though. Definitely like an indirect fire piece of equipment. That thing can't be accurate at all. Here it's being used in Syria. The 2B9 Vasilek. UA troops can be seen using the mortar here. Automatic mortar. I don't think that can be too accurate, huh? Is this the same thing?
82mm, but under current...
No, that is not. What is that, though? I haven't seen that in Ukraine. No, I'm trying to find like an educational video on it, but I'm not seeing one. Just it being used. And there it is, being used in Ukraine. Automatic mortar system, 82 millimeter. Not as devastating. I mean, not the biggest millimeter, but the fact that it's automatic. That could be deadly in direct fire mode. They got it the angle down. I'm sure it's being used in direct fire. Like, yeah, look at they're lowering it even further. That could be deadly. Ukrainian anti-aircraft system in action. He said, nah, bro, it's pretty accurate within a few years, proper training. I'll get some more info on that system tomorrow, for tomorrow's stream. Plus, with the drones they have in the air, I'm sure like targeting is simpler for those that are trained, or easier. All right, so here we got. Oops. And these, I wish these didn't play on their own. Here you got Ukraine defenders have stricken the invaders' forces congestion in the occupied Melitopol and Zaporizhia. So this is just showing some of the fighting going on between Kherson and Melitopol. Some of the ongoing artillery in the distance. We saw this video yesterday about the Caesar system. Here's some more of the ammunition depot in Donetsk being destroyed. The pro-Russian narrative propagandists are probably like having a field day with this, that something happened in Donetsk. Whenever like Ukraine, whenever there's a strike on a position in Donetsk or Luhansk by Ukraine, it's like reported from the Russian side as if it's the worst atrocity in the entire world, and how can Ukraine be doing such a thing? How could Ukraine be doing such a thing? Well, Ukraine wouldn't be having to strike Russian targets within their own cities if Russia hadn't invaded Ukraine. This wouldn't be happening. They wouldn't be having to attack their own cities. Cognitive dissonance by choice. Here's the new levels of delusion by the Russian state TV. Speaking of delusion.
15 сентября 2021 года в городе Запорожье, бывшем городе-миллионнике, индустриальном городе-центре, подписана, на сайте выложена петиция городского совета о переименовании площади Маяковского в имя актера, американского гей-порно-актера Билли Харрингтона. Почему? Потому что в обосновании сказано, на его фильмах воспитались огромное количество американских, европейских и украинских телезрителей. Кто этот актер? Есть обоснование. Он, извините меня, икона так называемого гачи-мучи-видео. То есть фильмов, в котором вы смеетесь, а Украину превращают в гачи-мучи страну. Смысл этих фильмов сводится к тому, что определенные накачанные мальчики встречаются, начинают за что-то бороться, а заканчивают тем, чем заканчивается в порнофильмах. В Украине все так.
То есть они поженились?
Женятся. Извините меня.
Wow. So that's the new levels of delusion by the Russian state TV. Russia's a very, very homophobic country. Special delivery for Kadriog. Like Kadriov's nickname, Kadri-dog. Special delivery.
Тёма, ну так как против нас воюет довольно-таки многочисленный контингент.
This way, the way we can work, the moment of the explosion of the Russian T-72B and the TM-62 anti-tank mine in the vicinity of Lysychansk. So this is a tank that ran over a mine in Lysychansk, Russian tank. Yep.
Идут след в след, но вот машина едва уходит в сторону. Не только экипаж уцелел, надежный советский Т-72 оттягивается в тыл своим ходом.
Ну, это работа на 4 часа максимум. Это сейчас подвезут материал, мы все быстро сделаем. И завтра уже обратно в бой. И будет он бежать, и дальше будет. И...
Interviewing some of the Russian soldiers there after their tank gets blown up by a mine. Here's a loading process of the HIMARS if you missed it. I played it yesterday. It's just a little under a minute clip. But here's their loading process of how to get these HIMARS systems loaded up.
Система дуже точна, вплоть до того, що пробиває дирку в зданні і туди залітає інша ракета. Прям в той отвір, який виходить під час першого.
Probably drunk off of vodka and their parties that they have in the occupied residential buildings or their residential houses that they take.
Засоби радіоелектронної боротьби. Вночі, вдень, сніг, дощ, туман, погодні умови зовсім не впливають.
Yeah, I turned the video audio down because of the music.
Я не збираюсь порівнювати, я ніколи цим не займався і вам не рекомендую, тому що це Мерседеси живуть.
Got a big red 1 patch on. What's up with that? You guys see the big red 1 patch he's got there? What's up? What's going on there? How do you get a big red 1 patch? Interesting. The BEH boys clearing out a T-72B3. T-72B3 tank. This is a Russian T-72. Maybe it was given to him. Maybe it was given to him by the Foreign Legion fighter. Ruskies captured BMP-1 with a funny Pimp My Ride, lateral sandboxes, and attached metal plates. Is this a captured Russian truck? There's MREs. Russian MRE on the ground. Some equipment. Unpacking the new M4 carbine.
Сучасного якісного озброєння. Це озброєння, яке передають нам країни, які підтримують нашу боротьбу проти Російської Федерації. Серед такого озброєння є така американська гвинтівка М4 військового зразка. І у мене за спиною зараз знаходяться коробки з 4 такими новенькими гвинтівками. І зараз ми їх розпакуємо і подивимося. Отже, ось так виглядає сама коробка з новенької М4. Відкриваємо і бачимо, що вона знаходиться в герметичному синьому пакеті. Крім самої гвинтівки, тут знаходимо мануал користувача.
The Dash 10.
4 магазини. А також
Get brand new M4s in the box. Man, our unit, we had M16s. we had old ass muskets in our unit. They're getting brand new M4s.
Також в комплекті йде.
Those look like newer. Those look like nicer than dude.
Переходимо до безпосередньо розпаковки самої гвинтівки. Герметичний.
M4 right out the package. Never seen what like a military armaments come in. They come in boxes. And there's the M4.
Стріляє дана рушниця патронами калібру 5,56, з якими в Україні, на щастя, теж проблем немає. Тож, як ми бачимо, ніщо так не сприяє кращому оснащенню та підсиленню Збройних сил України, як дії Російської Федерації.
Oh, there you go. Then the actions of the Russian Federation. Oh, God. Fuck. All right. Blame America first. Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad at America for forcing Russia to destroy Ukraine. This blame America first crowd is what is disguising and wrong. MTG is mad at America for forcing Russia to destroy Ukraine. So here's an update from Marge. Marjorie Taylor Greene has to say about Ukraine. She's a politician, so.
And Ukraine is not a NATO member. So why I still keep saying that. The truth is, grinding up Ukraine, grinding up that country, its infrastructure, its buildings, its schools, its ability for people to live there, and killing innocent Ukrainians, because our part in this funding war, that's what it does. We're grinding up Ukraine to fight a proxy war with Russia is disgusting. That is morally disgusting and wrong. And unfortunately, another problem is Russia could have been an ally. But now, with what's happening with Joe Biden and the UN and the way this is going, I don't think Russia's going to be an ally anytime soon. Definitely not. And you can understand why.
She has a live stream?
So this is what, and Ukraine is not an
alternate universe live streams? I didn't know MTG has her own stream. Jesus. Oh, and then here's her comments being featured on Russian state media.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья, дамы и господа, товарищи. Здравствуйте. В прямом эфире ваша любимая программа «60 минут». Начинаем с...
That is Marjorie Taylor Greene, the same politician that believed Jewish space lasers were a thing.
Сенсационных новостей из Америки. Бесполезность НАТО начали понимать даже в Вашингтоне. Выйти из Альянса призывает конгрессвумен Марджори Тейлор Грин. Помимо этого, она считает, что американцы должны помочь Путину победить. Вы не ослышались. Победить на Украине. Объяснение абсолютно логичное. Американский народ не хочет войны с Россией. Разжигание конфликта – следствие глупости западных лидеров и силы оружейного лобби, которое зарабатывает на войне деньги. Вот цитата Грин. Украина – новый Ирак, завернутый в симпатичный бантик НАТО с ядерным подарком внутри. Сложно не согласиться.
God dang, dude. So much going on the screen. Yo, this is like literal, like they are the OGs at this. So you know how much shit just flashed on the screen at once, just keeping your eyes there, keeping you locked in while they're just pummeling information into your eardrums. There's lots of things flashing on the screen in just this short amount of time, like this in a minute. That's why TikToks and Vines were so successful, or why TikToks are still successful, because they're short videos and a lot goes on usually in them, and they keep your attention for a short amount of time. This is just to get you dialed in, but look at this. Just so much going on. So many visuals get your attention while they're feeding you into your eardrums. The OGs at the propaganda game.
We have some bad news.
That's how you do it. Shit as simple as that. Flashy images keep people distracted. Russian T-72 burning in Luhansk. There's a T-72 tank in the Luhansk Oblast burning. Yeah, like at the casino, like when you go to a casino's propaganda. It'll get you to sit down at those tables and listen to the flashy lights and the noises and shit. Keep you there. Humans are simple. Flashy noises and sounds, and we're like children. We're just adults, or we're just older children. All right, we'll get the update from Zelensky, and then that'll probably be it for us here on Mercado Media just for the night. Here's the update from President Zelensky. The recovery of Ukraine is not only about what we should do after our victory or in the following years, but also about what we need to do right now. Okay, hold on. Nope. This was the 4th of July. No, we need to do July 5th. Apologies. That's yesterday's. Back to the hot section. Zelensky should be... There he is. Alright, here's from the 5th of July.
Вночі 5 липня майже по всій території нашої держави була оголошена повітряна тривога. До цього в столиці і в деяких областях тривоги не було вже певний час, і дехто почувався навіть особливо тривожно через таку незвичну тишу. Щось додумував, чогось боявся, шукав якихось пояснень, ніби окупанти до чогось готуються. Насправді не варто себе накручувати, не варто шукати логіку в діях терористів. Російська армія не робить ніяких пауз. У неї одне завдання – забрати життя у народу, залякати людей, щоб навіть кілька днів без повітряної тривоги вже відчувалося як частина терору. І от сьогодні ввечері Київ та знов майже вся Україна з повітряною тривогою. На цю годину є удари по Хмельниччині, жертви, поранені, зараз уточнюються. Наше з вами завдання – триматися, берегти себе, в тому числі берегти свої емоції, максимально допомагати обороні країни, захищати державу, скільки буде потрібно для нашої перемоги. Окупанти знову били по Сумщині, по Миколаєву і області, по Дніпропетровщині. Частину ракет вдалося збити нашим протиповітряним силам. І ми жодного дня не скорочували і не будемо скорочувати нашу дипломатичну активність, щоб отримати для України сучасні і достатні протиракетні системи. Це завдання максимум для нашої держави вже цього року – дати базову безпеку для українців, базовий захист від ракетних ударів. Але виконання цього завдання залежить не лише від нас, а й від розуміння партнерами наших фундаментальних потреб. Говорив сьогодні з прем'єр-міністром Британії Борисом Джонсоном. Подякував йому за розширення безпекової допомоги нашій державі ще на 100 мільйонів фунтів. Це на додачу до пакету оборонної підтримки на 1 мільярд фунтів, про який було оголошено нещодавно. Це дуже відчутна допомога для нас. Обговорили також з Борисом систему гарантій безпеки для України, яку ми розробляємо, яка має працювати довгостроково.
So he's talking about security guarantees being made with Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom. Boris.
Для наших людей. Взяв участь разом з президентками Молдови і Греції у форматі спеціальної конференції видання The Economist. Це вже 26-й такий щорічний захід, і цьогоріч на ньому Україна і безпека, звичайно, були головними словами. Для чого нам це потрібно? Наша держава потребує вже зараз визначеності з безпековим простором. Ми працюємо дуже активно над тим, щоб усі наші партнери і в Європі, і на інших континентах розуміли наше бачення безпекових гарантій. Сьогодні ж підбивали підсумки 2 місяців роботи державної благодійної платформи United 24. За цей час, завдяки участі людей з десятків країн, вдалося зібрати на потреби України більше 2 мільярдів гривень. Це не тільки допомога нашим оборонцям, але й внески на розмінування, на гуманітарні потреби. Я особисто подякував за приєднання до роботи United 24 в якості амбасадора Лієву Шрайберу, дуже відомому актору. Він співзасновник доброчинної організації Blue Check, яка профінансувала програми з психологічної підтримки і евакуації понад 20 тисяч дітей-сиріт з інтернатів та дитячих будинків Харківської, Дніпропетровської, Чернігівської, Одеської областей. Організація Лієва допомагає і родинам переселенців у Львові. Тепер він разом з Андрієм Шевченком, з Еліною Світоліною працюватиме на гуманітарному напрямку. І ще одне дуже важливе. Сьогодні в суспільстві було багато суперечок щодо рішення Генштабу Збройних сил України про затвердження порядку отримання якихось дозволів для військовозобов'язаних, призовників і резервистів. Я бачу, що є різні оцінки такого рішення. Є нерозуміння і навіть обурення в суспільстві. Я доручив міністру оборони, начальнику Генерального штабу, головнокомандуючому Збройних сил доповісти мені всі деталі під час завтрашнього чергового засідання Ставки Верховного Головнокомандуючого. Одним з пунктів порядку денного. Я обіцяю народу з цим розібратися. І прошу надалі Генеральний штаб не ухвалювати без мене подібних рішень. Слава Україні!
All right, President Zelensky going through his daily update and daily report from Ukraine. All right, that's going to be it for us here on Mercado Media for the night. I hope you guys join us after the stream. I'm going to be live on Snack Squad TV. All right, I'm going to be streaming Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 starts tonight, Part 1, the tanker incident. If you're interested in some entertainment, some video games, some content outside of the news updates here on Mercado Media, go subscribe to us on Snack Squad TV or just hang out here in the live feed on YouTube, and I will take you right into the stream. All right, you'll get redirected right into this live chat here for this stream if you just hang out in Mercado Media YouTube chat. All right. That's coming up here at 10:30. All right, I'll probably be like 15 minutes. I'm gonna have a safety meeting, and then we'll begin Metal Gear Solid 2. And that video game is very, very in line with what's going on in the war in Ukraine and some of the dialogue that is talked about within this gaming franchise and nuclear deterrence, and especially this game, Metal Gear Solid 2, is scarily accurate in terms of what's going on in today. This game came out in 2001, and some of the discussions and they talk about memes in this game and everything that didn't exist, but they exist now, which is wild. So we're going to be getting into that. So one more time before we go for the night, I'm going to read the map update, or excuse me, the key takeaways from the war in Ukraine before we go for the evening. And thank you guys again for tuning in. So key takeaways for the 5th of July, Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Pustruchev restated Russian President Vladimir Putin's initial objectives for operations in Ukraine, suggesting that the Kremlin retains maximalist objectives, including regime change and territorial expansion far beyond the Donbas. Russian forces continued offensive operations northwest and east of Slovyansk. Russian forces are attempting to advance west of the Lysychansk area towards Sievierodonetsk. Russian forces are likely attempting to gain access to village roads southeast of Bakhmut in order to advance in the city from the south. Ukrainian forces conducted a limited counterattack southwest of Donetsk city. Russian forces continue limited and unsuccessful assaults in the northern Kharkiv Oblast. Russian authorities are conducting escalated conscription measures in occupied territories to compensate for continuing manpower losses. And Russian authorities are continuing to consolidate administrative control of occupied areas of Ukraine, likely to set conditions for the direct annexation of these territories to the Russian Federation. And that is your update here for July 5th, 2022. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit that reaction button on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to Snack Squad TV for more entertainment style video game streams or just anything outside of the news coverage. Consider becoming a member on our YouTube channel, link is in the description. Consider becoming a supporter / subscriber of the Facebook page. Just grab the badge. If you guys see that little shield next to somebody's name in the Facebook chat, that means they're a subscriber. That really does help go a long way and help me continue providing news coverage on a daily basis. Thank you to everybody that sent stars. Thank you to everybody that has sent super chats during this live stream. And look for our map breakdown video at 2 p.m. tomorrow. All right, 2 p.m. every day for the edited map breakdown and territorial gains and losses within Ukraine. You guys have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you never miss a live stream. I'm Andy Mercado from Mercado Media. Have a wonderful night. See you on the next one.